So, like you said, we are brother and sister. You are the baby in the family. So, I know you from a much different perspective than probably, I would say, most of the world, right? I got to grow up with you for 18 years, at least, until I left for college, and you did likewise the following year. But if you can just kind of, for your people, for the folks that are going to be watching this years from now, tell us, who is Andrea Peters? Give us a little bit of background. Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about your family, please. And what do you do today? Can you kind of unpack that for us a little bit?
I will. So I think where I will start with that, and then I'll kind of back up, is I am a mother. I am a sister. I am a daughter. I'm a friend. I'm a mentor. And I'm a coach. That's who I am. Now, where I came from, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah. Let's go, NO.
Yeah, let's go, NO. We got some folks in the room. I'm surprised I didn't hear my auntie over there. I was waiting for it. So, so New Orleans, Louisiana, but I was born into a family where I was the fourth child. And the last child of the family. We saved the best for last, just FYI. And a military family, of all things. And so my dad served for 23 years in the United States Army. And so I watched him every single day don his uniform, put his boots on, and go out and serve this country. I also watched my brothers and my sisters kind of go into this progression of cleaning my dad's boots, right? So I will tell you, as the baby, I couldn't wait until I could clean my dad's boots, because at one point I was too young to be able to do that, and I couldn't believe they were able to and I couldn't. How dare you say I was too young, right? And so hence started the fight of me always trying to be a little bit older than what I was, because I was trying to keep up. But why is that important? I learned as a young person about service. I learned about service from my dad. I learned about service from my mom, Gail Peters, God rest her soul. I watched her day in and day out with 4 kids who were not necessarily the best kids all the time. Let's put it that way. And we gave her a run for her money. But we gave her a run for her money when my dad was out in the field, when my dad was deployed to Iraq. And I saw a strong woman. I didn't know back then how strong she was until I became a parent and realized the load that you carry as a parent. Okay. And so from that space of growing up and watching these two wonderful people that lived a life of service, I decided that I wanted to serve as well. And so I went to West Point. God opened some doors where I don't think it was by anything necessarily that I did. Obviously, I learned how to be a hard worker in the beginning. And, and I continued to work hard, went to West Point, and, West Point put me on my butt a few times. It taught me a lot of things about myself. It taught me a lot of things about resilience and the courage to keep going even when you fail. And so there were a few times there where I didn't know whether or not I was going to make it through West Point. But I knew that I didn't want to disappoint my mother and my father, and ultimately myself, because they created me to be this woman that had pride in who she is and who she was becoming. Even though I didn't know at that point what any of that would look like. So all I knew was that I needed to dig in and keep pushing. And oh, by the way, again, I'm the baby. So I'm watching my oldest brother, Anthony Peters, 5 years ahead of me, right? Off in college, now in the Air Force. I was watching Derek and Danielle, who were twins, out doing their thing, whether in the Army or actually in college as well. And I was like, oh no, again, competition, right? So I was always pushing to be just as good as they were, if not a little bit better sometimes. I don't know if I ever achieved that. I don't know if I ever achieved that, but They were my mark on the wall to keep going. They were the reasons why I continued to push. Yeah. And so, by the grace of God, I made it through West Point, and I commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army as an engineer. And so I've been an engineer for 22 years, and again, I'm a servant, right? I'm a servant leader, and that's what I've been doing for the last 22 years. And I look forward to doing it not for another 22, but potentially for another 5 to 10.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I appreciate you giving us a little bit of background on who you are and what are the big things in your life that you're interested in. But let's kind of shift this. I'm going to come back to West Point and this whole military thing in just a minute. But you gave us a little bit about Xpresso Unicorn. Why? Like, what was it about Xpresso and Unicorn that you put those two things together? You could have called this Andrea Peters Incorporated or something, right? So why'd you go with Xpresso Unicorn in particular?
The world has a problem. One of the biggest problems is that we are afraid to be who we are. We are afraid to show up as our authentic selves for the world around us. But the thing is, my worldview, God only made one of us, right? And if you don't show up as yourself and you continue to try to be somebody else, you are neglecting the world that God brought you to give that blessing to, which that's each and every one of you, right, as that blessing. Because it's only you that has those certain traits, those certain abilities to touch the communities that you need to touch and to develop yourself into the space in which you need to in order to move us forward as a society. And so Xpresso Unicorn, if you want to put it in layman's terms, it really means to express your uniqueness. Okay. Xpresso Unicorn. And I need everybody to show up as their unique self because, again, when you don't, you are now leaving a void in the world that you were supposed to fill.
Wow, that's great. So is it safe to say that as I participate with Xpresso Unicorn, as we participate with Xpresso Unicorn, that we are each expressing our uniqueness?
Absolutely.
That's what you're looking for from us?
That's right. If you decide to show up as yourself, if you show up as somebody else, then you're just giving me a mask. I need y'all to take your mask off and be who you are.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So so we're at the launch party of Xpresso Unicorn. This has been a long time in the making, and I know this has got to be like 1,000 pounds off your shoulder, or maybe it's 1,000 more pounds on your shoulder. Maybe that's more like it, right? But yeah, it's a lot coming. But so tell us, we're in New York City, right? Are we in Manhattan or Harlem or like?
Manhattan is Harlem.
Manhattan is Harlem. You see, I know very little about, this Big Apple place. But what is it about, why are we in New York City today launching Xpresso Unicorn?
So a few different things. The first thing is I truly believe New York raised me after I left my parents' house. Right? So I was just talking to my daughter about, this is where I learned how to drive, you know?
That's why you're such a bad driver. I got it. No. So I've got to tell this story. This literally just happened today. I've got another one that's a really, really bad one about driving. I love my baby sister. Here I am in the car driving down the big roads, the mean streets of New York City this afternoon. And she's on the phone giving instructions to people and she's like, green light. I see it. It literally turned green like 5 milliseconds ago.
Your foot should have been on the gas.
That's true. And here we go. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let that one go. We're gonna keep on driving. We get to the next light. Go. You can keep. What? Dude, talk on the phone, man. So I see where you get your driving from. The next story is horrible. I won't even tell you. My license was suspended for years in the state of Virginia because of someone at this table and not me. So we'll talk about that one later. Yes, please. Why are we in New York City?
Let me remind you guys that this is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, and I think he may have just slandered my name. So just FYI. But seriously though, yes, I know how to drive in the city, okay?
Yes, you do.
And when you wait too long, somebody will cut you off, okay? So you got to be on the gas, okay? We have places to be. So why New York City, though? Again, I did a lot of my informative years here. I was running in and out of the city in the Bronx and Harlem and Brooklyn, because West Point is literally just right up the road. Some people like to call it upstate. This is not upstate. You know, as you think about West Point, it's 45 minutes away from the city, you know, so we don't call that upstate, but New York City folks like to call it upstate. But I have some West Pointers in here, so you guys know that pain of driving back and forth and really being within this space and being a part of the culture and just developing and growing here in the city. And so, like I said, a lot of my informative years were here. Another piece is, as you look at the rich history of Harlem, what better place than the birthplace of the Harlem Renaissance, right? That's why I wanted to be in the city. And last but not least, because we'll get into some of this conversation later, is one of my best friends, dearest friends that I have known, Nancy Preston. She owns this space, and I wanted to use her small business and support her, and she wanted to love on me just as much. And so that's what made this the perfect space to be in.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. That's awesome. I love it, and I've seen you grow over the years, both, you know, just as a child growing up in the same house, and then your West Point years, and of course through your military years. And it's been amazing watching you grow. I love your desire to support small business, to support, you know, your group of connections, right? The people that you've grown up with for so many years, especially during those formative years at West Point. I love to see how you guys all support each other. That's really, really huge. So let me ask you, and I know we're running a little short on time, so I'm going to maybe ask you just one more question just for now, and if you want me back, then maybe I'll say yes. So let's talk about passion. And we're talking about all of the people that you support and things that you do, and the military, and, you know, your passion for trying to compete against your brother, you know, for so many years. But talk to us about passion. Now, what is Andrea Peters passionate about, and how does that relate to Xpresso Unicorn?
That's a great question.
I know you said no hard questions, but I'm sorry. We got to talk about passion. You're a passionate woman.
We could be here like 30 minutes talking about this. So I'm passionate about a lot of different things. But as we look at Xpresso Unicorn, the passion is for people, right? The passion is for people to truly show up as themselves, and for us as humanity to truly elevate that collective effort. And so, you know, I don't know if any of you have sat back and really thought about what does it mean to be a part of humanity, right? What does that really mean to you? Is it the categorical systems that we've created? Is that humanity? And depending on which system that you're in, then that dictates your worth? Or is it based off of the money that's in your pocket, right? I don't think it's any of that. We got to get back to the basics as it as it relates to humanity. And that's something as simple as a neighbor is in need. What do? You see somebody trying to walk across the street and they can't get there. Do you stop your car and get out and help them, right? It could be something as simple as somebody gives you a call, even though you're in a hurry, do you slow down long enough to actually hear what they're saying and hear their heart? And that's just kind of the basic level. Obviously where I want to get, and we've seen it as you look at what happened with George Floyd, and also let's just throw in COVID, right? COVID really unveiled some seams and gaps within our society. And a lot of those seams and gaps relates to our lack of effective mental health, right? Our lack of actually being tied together as human beings and supporting each other. And so there's so many different things that we can kind of dive into and look at. But with Xpresso Unicorn, it is more so as we look at ourselves and get away from the racial caste systems that we have created that continues to tear us down and continues to divide us, right? Now that doesn't mean that everybody's all the same, right? Because it gets into ethnic differences, right? Cultural norms. And I believe that there's still work that has to be done within these spaces that we talk about. You know, people want to say black, white, and etc., but it's really getting into those spaces of being miseducated. One of the things that I read as a kid was the miseducation of the Negro. And still to this day, Derek, like I sometimes wonder, why in the world did I even go into the military, right? Like I was so so rebellious in the space of thinking the same way that the rest of the society thought. Because I didn't believe a lot of these things, because again, I'm not black, I'm brown. My brother Matthew right here, he's not white. He's probably an almond color, right? That is within this space of brown. If we think about the cradle of humanity, where is it at? Africa, right? Everything, no matter if you research it or not, it goes back to the same place. And if you really look at it, the only thing that divides us is the regions of the world that we come from, that have caused our skin color, our hair texture, our nose size, our lip size, our etc. to be different. Because we as human beings, we are adaptable people. God has created us just like any type of species you see out there. We talk about COVID again. How many strands of COVID are we on? It is because it will adapt to keep living. Any living being has two primary tasks: to reproduce and to survive. Two primary tasks. And so we, being human beings, we have done that across this beautiful globe that we're in. And hence the reason for the different shades that we see. But at the end of the day, we are all within the hues of brown. We have got to embrace that and move away from this elitism, social caste systems that we have created. And that is what I'm passionate about. Because I wanna know you based off of what's in your heart and what's in your mind. Because again, each one of us are unique.
Yeah.
Each one of us have something to bring to the table. And what I can guarantee is that your skin color has nothing to do with it. That's what I'm passionate about.
That's awesome. That's great, Angie. And so, yeah, absolutely. This has been amazing. And I tell you, I appreciate you asking me to do this. You know, as I listen to you talk and express yourself, what I'm thinking about are two things. One, I hear you saying there's more alike and in common between us as human beings than there is different.
Absolutely.
And then I hear you saying through your brand, through your voice, that we need to love our neighbors as ourselves. That is so amazing. Angie, I love you.
I love you.
Thank you so much.
My brother.
This has been awesome.
My brother.